And even though he had done many signs before, or should I say, even though it is alleged that he had done many signs before, he said in the book of Matthew, the 12th chapter, starting at the 38th verse, he will tell them that he's going to give them one sign. They knew that Moses brought signs. They knew that Jonah had a sign. They knew that all of the prophets of Yahweh had a sign to distinguish and differentiate him from all the other great teachers of the earth. So they asked Christ of the New Testament, what was his sign? What is his contribution to prove beyond the shadow of a doubt that he is who he claimed he is? And that is the Son of God and the Messiah of Israel that's supposed to come out of the root of David. And they wanted this sign. And here's what he told the scribes and the Pharisees, or should I say, here's what he is alleged to have told them according to the so-called New Testament. We read verse 38, it says,
Then certain of the scribes and of the Pharisees answered, saying, Master, we would see a sign from thee. But he answered and said unto them, An evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, and there shall no sign be given to it, but the sign of the prophet Jonah.
He said, an evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, but there should no sign be given, but the sign of the prophet Jonah. He said, as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the fish, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. That was the only sign that he said he would give to verify the validity and authenticity of who he is, the sign of Jonah, and that he would truly be in the belly of the earth 3 days and 3 nights. Well, let me tell you what. I brought 4 witnesses with me today. These witnesses that I brought to prove that this is false are no other than Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. The scripture said, let every truth be established by the mouth of 2 or more witnesses. We're going to establish this truth tonight by the mouth of 4 witnesses, that the only sign that the Christ of the New Testament says that he was the Messiah would be that he would be in the belly or the heart of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights. Well, the reality is this. He was never in the earth 3 days nor 3 nights. He was never in the belly of the earth even 1 day. And let's examine this and see if I'm telling the truth or am I merely just spinning my wheels in the mud. Let's see what your book says. Let us go to the book of Matthew, the 27th division. 27 chapter Matthew, and let's see if he was in fact in the belly of the earth 3 days and 3 nights, as he told his many disciples and the scribes and Pharisees that he would be. I'm going to show you this night that the New Testament is also just full of lies, because we supposed to have 4 different stories about the same thing. And these stories are totally diverse and different than one another in every respect. There's only one thing that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John has in common. And that is that they all says that he died on Friday, and all four of them said he rose before Sunday morning. That's the one thing that they have in common. Everything else is totally diverse from one another. Now, if we start reading in Matthew's, the 27th chapter, we're going to pick this up in verse 50. Verse 50 says what all of them says.
JC, when he had cried again with a loud voice, yielded up the ghost.
And when did he die? All four Gospels says that he died in the ninth hour on Friday. And I'm going to prove this. Look at verse 46.
And about the ninth hour, JC cried with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?
So they all said he died around the ninth hour. But Matthew said, he said, my God, why has you forsaken me? And now we're going to go down to verse 57. 57 says,
When the even was come, there came a rich man of Arimathea named Joseph, who also himself was JC's disciple.
In other words, it says that he had a rich man, that he was his disciple. Of course, this is a total contradiction in his teaching, for he said in Matthew 19 and 16 that it is easier for a camel to get to an eye hole of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of heaven. And here we see this man was a rich man and his disciple. Well, let's keep reading.
Verse 58, he went to Pilate and begged the body of JC. Then Pilate commanded the body to be delivered. And when Joseph had taken the body, he wrapped it in a clean linen cloth and laid it in his own new tomb.
And all four Gospels will bear witness to the fact that after the Christ of the New Testament died, that disciples, his own disciples, is the only one that had the possession of his body. No one else.
And laid it in his own new tomb, which he had hewn out in the rock. And he rolled a great stone to the door of the sepulchre and departed. And there was Mary Magdalene and the other Mary sitting over against the sepulchre. Now the next day.
Notice, the very next day was the what?
That followed the day of the preparation, the chief priests and Pharisees came together.
Now the next day, and I'm going to prove to you that the day of preparation was Friday evening. And the next day that followed the preparation is the Sabbath day. And all of them will admit that this day is the Sabbath day that I'm talking about. And it is the weekly Sabbath, not the Sabbath of a Passover, because the Passover has no Sabbath. And the Sabbath that accompanied the Feast of Unleavened Bread was never called a Sabbath day.